the globalist fraud machine. Here's another one. Greeks withdraw nearly $1 billion from local banks. Giant lines because the rumors are they're going to devalue the currency and go off of the euro. Here's another. Italian bank shaken as economic slump deepens. The bankers have got them just where they want them unless they wake up and say no. Here's another one out of Bloomberg. Euro economy to sink as Spain, Italy re-enter recession. They never left the recession. They're in a globalist depression. Areas of Spain have got 35% unemployment. They're telling us our economy's great. Those of us living in the real world know it's not. Again, how much BS are we going to swallow? Here's the London Telegraph. Greece is on the brink of collapse. It's all right there in living color. Now, continuing on to what's happening in the United States, Alternet reports death by foreclosure. It's happening all the time. Desperate man commits suicide after Wells Fargo steals his home. Yeah, a lot of U.S. troops who can't get a living wage, they commit suicide at record numbers, and most often they write suicide notes. I've seen it reported. So I have read that they say that it's because they couldn't pay their bills. They couldn't pay for their house, and we're serving 4, 5, 6 tours. But when they die, for years, money's taken out of their check for a death benefit. That came out 3 years ago that the government made a deal with the big insurance companies to not pay their wives or husbands the money. That's patriotism, though. If you're not for taking the dead troops' death benefits, you are with Al-Qaeda. Meanwhile, as the bankers rape Europe and the rest of the world, Jamie Dimon says losing $2 billion is no big deal. It's an accounting manipulation, which it actually is, and goes on to imply that he's the source of all of our prosperity. Actually, we're having our taxes raised to pay off the derivatives this criminal created. And Obama is saying, though, that he's one of the best bankers out there. Yeah, because he is openly financing his campaign. But even the LA Times went on to point out they're doing stuff that just 12 years ago was illegal, and it's all part of the giant casino that has become the stock market and all this derivatives crud they've been shelling. Kurt Nimmo has a report on it. Obama head over heels for Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan Chase. Now, this takes us to a piece from 1993 that was put together by a great patriot, Paul Harvey, with the rest of the story, where he talked about if I was the devil, what the devil would do to undermine our society so that we wouldn't know right from wrong, up from down, and would be rudderless so we could be enslaved and taken control of. And you look at this today, it is basically prophetic. So here is this piece.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
And there is Paul Harvey, dead for 3-4 years, but still echoing through the halls of our minds. And again, they sell evil like it's sexy and fun, but once you've been involved in it, you realize it leads nowhere. If I was the devil, I would genetically engineer food to add stimulants to it so people would never know what was killing them. And I'd make the poison only take effect for 2 or 3 generations, so there'd be no way to resist or know who had done it. I'd soft kill the population. If I was the devil, I'd put sodium fluoride that creates a 7 to 8 times increase in bone cancer in men. If I was the devil, I would chemtrail the skies and change our weather. If I was the devil, if I were the devil, I would want to set up a world government and destroy all nation states so that nobody could organize against my evil. I get rid of the family. I get rid of the love of discovery. I would turn people into Kim Kardashian mindless idiots watching mainstream television. So again, whether the devil is a real entity or not, it might as well be the devil, because we've allowed the worst, most manipulated people to control our planet, and they are wrecking our species' chances to go to the stars. Now, the bankers that have hijacked the nation and broken up our families want to make sure we can't resist. So they've trained the police to get rid of the Bill of Rights and Constitution to fight Al-Qaeda. But now they're saying, oh, actually, it's people that want freedom. They're the terrorists. And all over the country, this article from INFOWARS.com is out of Florida. The police are getting ballistic shields, these big armored shields, so that they can protect themselves from the public, all part of the 450 million hollow points that the feds have bought to wage war against the American people, while the bankers sit offshore and laugh as we kill each other. But continuing here, private contractor criminal torture cases given go-ahead by federal court. That's by AllGov. And the funny thing about this is Bush brags in public memos, John Yoo that wrote the memos has been given immunity, that they ordered torture, including rape of children, crushing of genitals, things like that, in front of their parents. But then the people that did all this when they got caught are going to prison. And the prosecutions are ongoing. So all of you out there that serve this evil, remember, you'll be hung out to dry. And then last year, Bush comes out with a book and goes, I ordered torture, and I'll do it again. Ha ha! So there you have it. Now, I take you, my friends, to the last article before we go to break and come back with our guest. House members grill Panetta on Syria and the Constitution. That was the headline. And I didn't learn about this until 3 weeks later. I had Congressman Walter Jones on from North Carolina today, and he's got the resolution in there, trying to get it out to the full floor of the House, that if Obama launches another war like Libya and says the UN's the boss of this country, that they will trigger impeachment hearings, because it's constitutional that the Congress has got to declare war or give authorization. And presidents have ignored this for a while, but to say, oh, I get the authority from the UN, that's treasonous. And so he needs everybody's support to make sure that this resolution goes forward. But 2 months ago, it did make the news that Panetta, the Secretary of Defense, told the Senate, hey, we go to foreign countries to decide if we're going to war. We don't need to go to Congress. And Senator Sessions flipped out. Well, it turns out that a month later, in the House, they had hearings. We've got some clips, little internet clips of that coming up. But first, Here is the original clip that actually got attention. Now that this is ongoing, then there's a media blackout because they're afraid that we'll actually enforce the Constitution and Bill of Rights. It's all part of our teleprompter-free news. Here is the clip from 2 months ago, then we'll give you the new clips.
We worried about international legal basis, but nobody worried about the fundamental constitutional legal basis that this Congress has over war. We were not asked, stunningly, in direct violation of the War Powers Act, whether or not you believe it's Constitution. It certainly didn't comply with it. We spent our time worrying about the UN, the Arab League, NATO, and too little time, in my opinion, worried about the elected representatives of the United States. Do you think that you can act without Congress and initiate a no-fly zone in Syria without congressional approval?
You know, again, our goal would be to seek international permission, and we would come to the Congress and inform you and determine how best to approach this, whether or not we would want to get permission from the Congress. I think those are issues we would have to discuss as we decide what to do here.
Well, I'm almost breathless about that, because what I heard you say is we're going to seek international approval, and they will come and tell the Congress what we might do, and we might seek congressional approval.
No, well,
I want to just say to you, that's a big dish. Wouldn't you agree? You've served in the Congress.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that that's would be pretty breathtaking to the average American? So would you like to clarify that?
But I've also served with Republican presidents and Democratic presidents.
All right, that's enough. Shut him up. We played the clip over and over again. It's at INFOWARS.com. You'll see the full thing. It went on for like 10 more minutes going, no, we get the authority from the UN. The UN's the boss. You sit down and shut up. The generals are nodding their head. Hey, this is their country. They got the weapons like a third world nation. They run things. They're El Jefe. Okay? Now, that got some attention. But now Walter Jones, Congressman Jones from North Carolina, and Congressman Forbes from Virginia, they bring up the same points. And Alex Jones, I didn't know about this. My crew didn't know about this for over 3 weeks. I had Congressman Jones on for an update and learned that he had confronted him over 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. Here is a series of those clips. This is big news. The alternative media, the real media, the resistance to tyranny. We've got to get this report out to everybody. Here it is.
Mr. Secretary, if the situation changes and you believe the use of force in Syria becomes necessary, will this administration seek authorization from Congress before taking action?
We will clearly work with Congress if it comes to the issue of the use of force. I think this administration wants to work within the war powers provision.
I continue, and the American people.
Hit pause. Back it up. This is amazing. So he's gone from saying, if we want to, we'll come to Congress. You know, if I feel like it, I'll ask before I come into your bedroom at night and rape you. I mean, if I feel like it. To like, the president thinks he might want to work within the war powers if he feels like it. So the point is, they're being brought to heel right now because what they're doing is illegal. They'll tell you having a family is a privilege next. They already tell you driving is. It isn't, by the way. Or having a gun is. I mean, there's nothing these crooks won't do. But this is good news. They're actually being brought to heel. But later they weasel back in. Let's go back to it.
We will clearly work with Congress if